there, Lego fans! Today I'm going to be building this app-controlled Top Gear rally car, kit number 42109 at 463 pieces. And the reason this one caught my eye is because this is the first Lego RC car in this size that I've seen with Lego's new extra large motor, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how that performs. But first, let's get this thing unboxed, get it built, so then we can start playing with this app-controlled rally car. Here we have one freshly built app-controlled Top Gear rally car. And the first thing that strikes me about this build is that despite it being under 500 pieces, it's actually a pretty good size. Measuring at about 10.5 inches or about 17 centimeters long, this is probably the largest kit that I've done at under 500 pieces. But as one might expect, that comes with a bit of a trade-off. This set doesn't really have much in the way of fine detailing, with much of its look coming from stickers, or having extra features. But I think that's just fine, because those weren't the selling points of this kit. This is an app-controlled RC car. Before we get to those features, let's have a closer look at the aesthetics. Starting, as usual, right in front, the entire hood and part of the front bumper are covered with red, white, and blue racing stripes. In addition to the two main headlights, right between them, currently with their stick curve rings, we have four additional very bright headlights. And beneath that, the wide black bumper is very firmly attached, which is great because as you're driving around, you're bound to bump into things. Unfortunately, I found the main headlights to not be so well attached, as I've already lost track of one. Along the side, we can see that this Top Gear, car number 77, as part of a decal, it spans across 4 pieces, making a pretty cool looking lightning bolt. And I'm also kind of pleased to say that while I'm normally frustrated with stickers that span multiple pieces, because of the spacing between these pieces, it doesn't require high precision placement to make them look good. And around the back, not too much to see here, a large red spoiler, a pair of taillights, bumper, a pair of mufflers, and all of this is very well attached and ready for it to be bumped around as you're driving it around. And while I said this car doesn't have much in the way of extra detailing, it's definitely not completely devoid of it. For, under the hood, we see the engine, with 6 big pipes, 3 coming in from either side. The engine itself would actually be the motor that controls the steering, a curved yellow pipe with wheel attached end of it down in the right hand corner, and just beneath that, we can see the gears that control the steering mechanism. Flipping it over to the bottom, here I have something that I find to be pretty interesting. This is the first time I've seen this kind of differential. Not the same kind we have in, let's say, the Bugatti or the Scion. This is much more robust. Having a large red gear attached to the outside of the housing and on the inside having 5 of those smaller beige gears, making for a much more robust differential, definitely meant to be driven. Despite being a different design, it still has all the same mechanical properties. If you drive the 2 wheels forward, they'll drive together. If you try and spin one wheel at a time, the opposite will spin the other direction. Or you can even stop one wheel from spinning and just spin the other side. All of which is there so that you have no wheel slippage and maintain good control as you go through turns. And just a little ahead of that, right in the center, you have an easily accessible battery compartment, which of course is exactly how you'd want it to be. Now, of course, we want to drive this thing, so let's hit the power button and launch LEGO's Control Plus app on my smartphone. The control interface is pretty easy and intuitive. Over on the left-hand side, we have a steering wheel, which if we move to the left and move to the right, we control the steering, of course. And over on the right, currently we have the transmission set to automatic. By pressing down on the D, the power is slowly increased as you see the transmission switch to first, second to third gear, and of course getting progressively faster. And you can bring it right back down, go into the R, and of course go into reverse. And then we can switch over to manual mode, where we have first, second, and third gear, and as you go through the progression, the car gets progressively faster, as one would expect. Alternately, if you prefer tilt steering, by swiping to the right, you get this interface. The paddle on the right would of course be the gas, so as you hold your finger down on it, the car will slowly speed up. Then you can tilt your phone to do the steering, which personally I find to be much more intuitive. Kind of like playing Mario Kart. And then in manual mode, you get paddle shifters, where you can click through first, second, third, or all the way back down to reverse, and choose the speed which you like, which is definitely my preference, because in automatic mode, it automatically accelerates, but in manual, you can lock in the speed of your choosing, which I think is much better. While driving around, you probably notice that there's a little speedometer up on the dash, which obviously is not an indication of the actual speed, because I'm not going that fast. But it is interesting that it's not just some random representation. This is generated by the sensors within the motor that count the revolutions. As you can see here, according to the transmission, the car is in neutral and shouldn't be moving, but the speed is definitely climbing. That's because I'm spinning the wheels manually. Now, of course, we all want to know how it drives, and I gotta say, pretty good. With minimal effort and training, I can drive around this table, forward, back, make turns, and not really feel at risk of falling off, because the controls are just that easy. There is some pretty interesting transmission behaviors programmed into controls, which I wasn't expecting. As it is with all non-electric cars, when your car starts, you're in first gear, and as you accelerate, you shift through the gears, which is exactly what the automatic transmission mode shows on the screen. But in manual mode, if you go straight from neutral to third gear, you would expect like an electric vehicle, it would just jump to the fastest speed. But it actually accelerates very slowly, much the same behavior as if you were to actually start a car in third gear. Looking at the specs of the extra large motor, there's no mention of the 3-speed transmission in here. So this behavior is programmed by the software, which I think is pretty cool because it drives more like a real car. With the sensors that are included in the motor, the controller, or perhaps both, it also becomes aware when it's trying to drive against an immovable object, and the motors will cut power. So while the extra large motor does have some impressive specs and features that would make it very good for some heavy duty loads, I find it doesn't really quite have the high performance gains that I was hoping for in this little car. But I'm definitely not trying to say that this isn't fun to drive around, or that I recommend you buy another kit over this one. I've been having quite a bit of fun playing with this, and I anticipate the fun will continue for quite some time. Unfortunately, my cats have not been appreciating it, and that's too bad for them. So as a play kit, it's definitely getting top marks. As the display kit, it's just kind of barely passing the grade. I mean, it looks pretty good sitting there, it's got some okay detailing in the stickers, but as far as LEGO stickers are concerned, definitely very low on the details, no real features to speak about, so play is really what they have in mind. And as to the parts, of course, you get the Bluetooth controller, which currently comes with one extra large motor, one standard motor, and if you have one, this controller can take 2 additional motors. Plus there's this heavy duty differential for some more heavy duty tasks that you might have in mind for your own creations. Now, my final thoughts as to who I think this kit is best suited for, I think it goes without saying that pretty much any junior fan that loves RC cars is going to have a blast with this one. And of course, these electronics open up a world of possibilities for when they want to make their own creations later. As to the A-falls, I think the appeal to this kit is a little narrower. Sure, there's fun to be had, but let's be honest, it's not going to go on as long as if you were of the younger persuasion. And while this car would look right at home in a kid's room, it doesn't really have the display value that A-falls are typically looking for. But the electronics are another matter altogether. It might be enough to pull the A-falls in on their own. Guys, I did a little price breakdown. In Canadian funds, this set retails for $180 at the LEGO store. But if you do the price breakdown of the electronics, the Bluetooth controller is $120, the extra large motor, $50, and the smaller motor is another $20. So on their own, they already exceed the price of the kit by $10. So if you were looking to buy these components already, you can just buy this kit instead, save yourself a little money, and get all these other parts essentially for free, including that extra large differential, which I find to be pretty cool. So, bottom line, in my opinion, while I feel this kit has a wide range of appeal to junior LEGO fans out there, to the A-Falls, if you're looking at this kit, I have a feeling it's more purpose-driven than for the sake of collecting.